Whoever is just a good person for you and not the right person is the right person for somebody else. So just because they weren't good for you in your life does not make them a bad person. I just want to give that clarification. What's poppin', people? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a good person versus the right person in relation to romantic relationships and friendships. But before we get into the meat of this video, I'm going to remind you guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below when you share this video with a friend. But for now, let's get started. So to get a better understanding of this biblically and how we can relate it to us, I'm going to be using the story of Judas. If you don't know that story, he's the one who betrayed Jesus and kind of set things in motion for Jesus to be crucified because he decided to sell him for I don't know how many silver coins, but like whatever. So anyway, using that story, Jesus handpicked all of his disciples, and Judas is one of the 12. He handpicked them all. So thinking of Jesus and Judas, obviously, Judas had to have some good qualities about him. Like, I'm pretty sure Judas did not go looking for a bad person or go looking for someone who gossips or slander or who's going to betray you. Like, he looked for good qualities in people. Not a perfect person, but good qualities. And how we know Judas had good qualities was because after he betrayed Jesus, his conscience was so overwhelming that he killed himself. Not saying it's good that he killed himself, but the fact that he had a conscience and he kind of rethought his steps, lets us know there was some good in him. That guilt was eating him alive because he's really a good person. He just had a moment of weakness that led him to sin and eventually death because he just really could not handle the guilt. Now, relating that to us, all of us get to pick and choose the older we get who we have in our life as friends, as romantic partners. We have the ability to choose, right? Now, I don't know how old you are, what age or stage you are in your life right now, but most of us have gone through those seasons of kind of sifting through friends and trying to figure out who's really for you, who's not, who's toxic, who's a healthy friend, who's really there for you, like who's that right person for me. And I'm pretty sure we've all gone through that and we've had friends come and go. I know I have. But in the moment when you're picking them, when you're hanging out with them, when you're talking to them, you're looking at they're a good person, they're nice to me, they treat me right, they look out for me, they're a helping hand, they're a listening ear, like they have all these good qualities. So in order to differentiate a good person versus the right person is not necessarily the simplest thing, because whoever is just a good person for you and not the right person is the right person for somebody else. So just because they weren't good for you in your life does not make them a bad person. I just want to give that clarification. But in order for you to know, you have to have clarity of thought and you have to have wisdom and discernment. It's very, very key. So I know saying wisdom and discernment is like, obviously you need that. But it's very, very key, like I said, because just because someone isn't right for you does not make them a bad person. So yeah, they may have done bad things in your mind or whatever. That does not make them a bad person for life. Like I said with Judas, he made a mistake, a big mistake, but obviously it was written that it was going to happen, and he was just the person to kind of set things in motion. And I always say, if Judas really believed in Jesus, if Judas had that faith, I feel like he wouldn't have killed himself because he would have asked for forgiveness. Because after he betrayed Jesus, the Bible never said that he was doomed to damnation. He never said that he was going to die because of it. Jesus actually told him right before he betrayed him that I love you. And obviously Jesus knows everything. So if Judas could just wrap his head around that he's forgiven and, he can move forward and try again and all these things, like I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have killed himself and he probably would have had a better chance of getting into heaven, but we will never know. So going back to having wisdom and discernment, in order to have wisdom and discernment, you have to have clarity of thought and you have to have kind of a good idea of what's right for you. So I'm going to talk about me for a minute. I know what's right for me. I do not need yes people in my life. I do not need lazy people in my life. I do not need complacent people in my life. And I don't need anyone that's not trying to grow in my life, because that's not where I am and that doesn't do well for me. I get bored quick. Once I feel like I've mastered something, I'm not about to try and stay in that forever. Like I want to move on and figure something else out and just kind of continually get better and continually grow and get wiser and smarter. So having someone who's really complacent, not comfortable, but complacent. I don't mind someone being comfortable with me, but if you're complacent to the point of you just don't want to grow and you're okay where you're at, You can be my associate, but I definitely would not call you a friend, because you're not someone I would come to for encouragement to move forward, for encouragement to like get my life together or to change things, because you clearly don't like change if you're trying to be complacent. So that's just like a little bit about me and how I pick and choose my friends. Now, how to differentiate between a good person versus the right person, like I mentioned a little bit in the beginning, it's going to be up to you to determine what's good for you, and that would require you knowing yourself. You have to take the time to get to know yourself without somebody telling you who you are. Yes, you can have people speaking life into you, and you can have people trying to motivate you and tell you can do all these things. But at the end of the day, you have to believe that about yourself and know that about yourself in order to be able to see who's going to be the right person for you in this time of your life and who's not, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. Once you are romantically involved with somebody, once you kind of become super vulnerable like with that person, it's going to be a lot harder to have clarity of thought in reference to that person, which is why I believe is one of the many, many reasons the Lord says do not live with a partner before you're married and do not have sex before marriage, because wisdom and discernment in reference to that person is going to be very hard to decipher when you are romantically involved, because you have too many emotions and feelings involved. So even if a lot of times you pick up on red flags in reference to a person, it's usually harder to let go because of your romantic involvement with them. And especially like when living with somebody and you're romantically involved with that person while you're living with them, it's like you're playing house or whatever. Like, oh, this person is a good man, he pays the bill, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this person's a good woman, she cooks for me, she cleans, like she takes care of me. That's great. She's a good woman, he's a good man. That does not mean that they are the right person for you. And a lot of people say that because they say they live with this person, didn't work out, they move on, live with someone else, didn't work out, blah, blah. Like, change up your pattern, change up how you normally do things, and have clarity of thought in reference to a person, and then trust me. The Lord will reveal who is right for you. He will definitely reveal it, and then once he reveals it, you wait for further instructions on what to do. But saying that to say, in order to differentiate who's good, who's right, you have to have clarity of thought. You have to have wisdom and discernment, and those three go in hand. Clarity of thought, wisdom, and discernment, because God can give you wisdom and discernment, but you're going to be wondering if it's really God, or if it's something you really should do, if it's something that you don't really want to do. And if you have clarity of thought, it's more of like, okay, well, I want this person in my life. Yes, I like this person, but this person may not be good for me in the long run, so I'm going to have to eventually cut them off. Or it's more of like, yeah, the Lord gave me wisdom and discernment, but if you're not listening to it, it's just going to be there. Like, you just have it, but you're not really doing anything with it. So it's like a waste of your time at that point to even have it, because you're not being obedient, and you're going to get hurt in the long run. Like, you're going to get your feelings hurt, whether you cause it or somebody else caused it, because God knows all. So when he's telling you to cut somebody off, when he's telling you not to do something, when he's telling you to stay away, whatever, it's because he knows what's to come. He's not doing it to be mean or try to be a bully or, just try to train you all the time. He's doing it to protect you, because he knows what's going to happen in the future. So, and you're able to determine good versus right, you need clarity of thought, wisdom, and discernment. I can't really give you pinpoints of step by step, like I said, of who's good for you, who's not. Only person that's going to be able to determine that, like I said before, is you. So you definitely need to take the time to get to know yourself. It doesn't matter how old you are, you get to know yourself right now. And I want to leave you guys with this last little tidbit. Ask the Lord who's for you. And I know that sounds scary, and it's like, will he really do that? But he definitely, most definitely will. I had a conversation with a friend the other week, or maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and he was telling me about some situation with a girl, and I was like, you always get the crazies. Why don't you just ask, the Lord to reveal who your wife is, or, do you ever ask? And his response was, do you know how hard that is? And I was laughing, so I'm just like, yeah, but I feel like it's better to wait for an answer and wait for that clarity and that answer, rather than getting hurt over and over again dealing with a bunch of crazy people who aren't for you. I feel like that's just way better if you weigh the pros and cons. The only con to asking God who's for you is just the waiting game, and then the many cons of dealing with many different crazies is just a long list of you have jealousy, toxic, they throwing your clothes out the window, smashing your cars, it's just crazy. So he was like, you know how hard that is? And I was just like, oh, I guess you could say it's hard, yeah. But I mean, it's worth it to me. I would think that it's worth it, you know, for your sanity and safety. And then he was like, he put it in scientific terms, you know, I have a lot of testosterone. He said I have a lot of testosterone that I need to release. And I knew obviously what that meant. And I started laughing, but then it had me thinking, the reason that we have the fruits of the Spirit is to practice self-control and patience. So those two things, when it comes to romantic relationships and even friendships, in order to have the right ones and be able to discern which ones are good for you, we have to have the fruits of the Spirit. I'm just talking about the one that says patience and self-control. Obviously, for these reasons, we need patience in the Lord telling us who's who. We need self-control and controlling our bodies so we don't just give in because we want gratification for our flesh right now. Like, there's a reason we have those fruits of the Spirit listed and why the Lord says we need them. Again, those are just two out of the many. I forget exactly how many, but I'll put it on the screen for you. But those are just the two that I'm talking about in reference to friendships. Because a lot of us, like, I want to go hang out. I want to go eat with this person, you know. I want to look like I'm having fun. I want to be able to, you know, be with this person when I want to be with them. Sometimes you don't want to have a conscience or whatever. But it's listed, it's there for a very reason. And I feel like the reason that we have so many messed up friendships and relationships is because no one really wants to practice a major thing, which is self-control and patience. Like, it's needed in order to have an effective friendship or romantic relationship with anyone. Self-control, patience, and those are just the two that you really need in order to get to where you want to get to. If you want to get to that long-term best friend, if you want to get to that long-term soulmate, like, you need patience, and you definitely need self-control in order to have, like I said, that clarity of mind and that wisdom and discernment to actually be obedient to what it is you hear the Lord telling you to do. So I want to leave you guys with that little tidbit. Hope this video was really helpful and informative. I hope you guys got a lot from it. I hope I wasn't all over the place. I kind of feel like I was, but I really hope it kind of like flowed to where you guys understand exactly what I'm saying. And again, good person versus right person, that's entirely up to you to be able to discern. You have to get to know yourself. You have to take time for yourself. You have to have clarity of thought, and you have to have those two fruits of the Spirit for sure when it comes to any kind of relationship, whether it be romantic or just simply platonic. You need those two things. Like, that's just hands down. There's no use in settling because you just end up getting hurt in the process. So why not just try something new this time? Hope this video was helpful. If it was, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below once you share this with a friend. Hope to see you guys in that next video. In the meantime, in between time, I will see you next time. Bye.